Good afternoon for those who are in West Africa, and good morning to those who are in United States. My name is Maya Tal Hoshemi, and welcome to Black Marine Science Week 3. I'll be moderating today's discussion with our panelists, Mr. Forbi Perise, Mr. Isaac Sowah Badu, Ms. Dawn Pratt, and Dr. Edem Mahu. Let me first just acknowledge that all panelists are located in West Africa in different parts. You have some in Ghana, you have some in Cameroon, one in Nigeria who also but lives in Gambia, and myself in Gambia. Also, just to let you know, apologies in advance if we get disconnected or the network kicks off offline. Not to worry, this is just something that's we're used to when the electricity goes off on this side. They will rejoin and continue the conversation. And these are just examples of the struggles we face living in Africa, whether you're a marine scientist or another profession. We are resilient and we know how to keep it going. All right, first, I want to introduce the topic. Today's panel will be jumping into how to navigate through the field of marine science in West Africa. Viewers will be joining us to discuss the BIMS TV, and we'll also answer some questions in the end. We have a dynamic group of panelists that I would like to introduce you to. And here we go. First, we have Mr. Forbi Perise. Forbi is a young leader forming one of the 8 members of the inaugural cohort of the Gambia Global Plastic Action Partnership Champions of Plastic Action, an endorsed program under the World Economic Forum. He's also a member of UNGO, executive member of Commonwealth Climate Change Network in Cameroon, and currently African regional representative for Sustainable Ocean Alliance, where he just was in COP27 in Egypt. Over the past 4 years, Mr. Forbi's work has been focused on promoting climate education and ensure marine species are also given a chance to strive. He's a passionate leader working towards connecting, motivating, influencing other youths that care about the environment and the planet. Mr. Forbi initiated the Youth for Blue Carbon Ecosystems project, supported by Sustainable Ocean Alliance, to provide young people with opportunities to learn about blue carbon ecosystems and take action to protect them. He's committed, and hard work earned him 2 awards, the Diana Award and the North American Association for Environmental Education 30 Under 30 Awards. Mr. Forbi works closely with different local NGOs and government agencies. I would like to take the time to welcome Mr. Forbi.
Thank you. Pleased to be here.
Next, we have Mr. Isaac Sowah Badu. Mr. Isaac is a recent graduate of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science Technology with a bachelor's in science in nature resource management and a specialization in wildlife and range management. He's a member of the National Geographic Society, GEO, a global community of young people who are driving progress and seeking solutions to help protect the planet. He is currently a Paragon 1 student ambassador and alumni extern with National Geographic Society and the Nature Conservancy on marine conservation issues. He's also a past research and teaching assistant at Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Mr. Isaac intends to pursue a career in environmental sciences and biodiversity conservation to bring sustainable solutions to pressing challenges in the environment. Mr. Isaac from Ghana, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm so excited to be part of this. Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Dawn Pratt. Ms. Dawn Pratt is a marine environmental science enthusiast with keen focus on shoreline change, observation, and wetland ecology assessment. Ms. Dawn is the field and data analyst at Great Institute in the Gambia, where she works on coastal and aquatic resources management and wetland restoration. She's also the project coordinator of a new project called Promoting Conservation in the Gambia through the establishment of Coastal Science Citizens Network project. Dawn is actively engaged with grassroots communities and relevant stakeholders in capacity building and education on aquatic ecosystem and its challenges. As an early career scientist, her research interests focus on climate action, coastal zone management, environmental sustainability, and conservation. Dawn has an MSc in climate change and marine science in Cape Verde. She's currently located in Nigeria, And we look forward to seeing her and what fruitful conversation she may have. Welcome, Ms. Pratt.
Thank you, Ms. Maya. It's a pleasure being here.
And last but definitely not least, Dr. Edem Mahu. Dr. Edem Mahu is the National Geographic Explorer, is a senior lecturer in marine geochemistry at the University of Ghana. Her research spans on paleoclimatic and environmental reconstructions of marine ecosystems, marine pollutions, understanding redox processes and coastal ecosystems, and the use of nature-based solutions to address coastal challenges. She's a member of the trustee board for the Partnership for Observation of the Global Oceans, a steering committee member for Coast Predict, a member of the executive board of the Global Oceans Corps, and conveyor and EQUIC. Dr. Mahu is the recipient of the 2022 award for AGU Africa Award for Research Excellence in Ocean Science. She has led several projects, including the Fishing for the Future and mangroves as nature-based solutions to coastal hazards project. Welcome so much, Dr. Mahu. We appreciate you joining us on this panel.
Thank you very much, Ms. Maya, for having me on the show.
Great. So our audience who are not familiar with you guys and where you're from, we're just going to do a little icebreaker just to let them know a little bit about yourselves and where you come from. So I'm going to ask you individually, starting with Mr. Forbi. In 3 words, how would you describe yourself and the work that you do?
Okay. I think I have these 3 words that I always use: passionate, resilient, and purpose. I think one thing that struck me first when you mentioned resilience at the beginning of the discussion, and I was like, wow, she got it right, because that's a word that describes my work. And I think a lot of passion has been put into what I do as an individual. So I would say passion, resilience, what's for me.
All right. Passions and resilience. That's not 3, but we'll take it. Next, I'll ask Dr. Mahu. In 3 words, how would you describe yourself and the work that you do?
Okay, so I think we are all on the same page here. The first word I have for you is resilient. For me, I'm very positive and I'm a goal-oriented person. Thank you.
Thank you for those amazing 3 words. Passing it on to you, Mr. Isaac. How would you describe yourself in 3 words?
I would describe myself as I'm very friendly, first and foremost, and I'm passionate about what I do. And also I'm industrious. I like to work very hard in what I'm doing, everything that I find my hands on. I would want to work hard to achieve my goals. So I'm friendly, I'm passionate, and I'm industrious.
And last but not least, Ms. Dawn, how would you describe yourself in 3 words?
I think I'll say I'm a genuine person. I believe, like, I share my true thoughts and belief and opinions with the world. I express my vulnerabilities. And of course, I listen to my inner voice rather than just my surroundings. I'll say I'm dependable and also collaborative. And with regards to the work I do, I involve a lot with outreach, education, and research of students, and of course, the grassroots.
Wow, those are amazing words to describe yourself. And living in Africa, especially in West Africa, because a lot of the global world, especially the global North, forget about West Africa. They always concentrate in East Africa or South Africa. So being passionate, being resilient, being a visionary, is so important in the work that we do. So tell us a little bit about where you come from. When you think about your country, what is the first thing that comes into your mind? And we'll start with Cameroon.
Thank you, Maya. I think you've made a lot of comments that resonate very well with me. And I think at the beginning of my career, I wanted to change the narrative. Sorry, I'm telling a story, but the narrative is I saw a lot of attention in East Africa, in West Africa. I mean, in East and South Africa. And I'm like, where's Cameroon? No one is featuring from Cameroon in webinars and anything. So I think one way I would describe my country is if you come to Cameroon, you would see a lot of water resources, a lot of waterways, and large rivers. I know that a lot of countries in Africa have these characteristics, but Cameroon basically it comes from a river. The name Cameroon comes from a river in Portuguese called Rio dos Cameros. So that's how our country was named, by a river in the largest city in Cameroon.
Wow, thank you for that. And since we have two people from Ghana, I hope that you both will have two different ways to describe your country. So we'll start with you, Mr. Isaac. What is one word you would describe Ghana?
Peace.
Oh,
I would like to think that Ghana is one of the most peaceful countries in Africa and also in the world. We are so peaceful here, and then lots of people travel from far and near just to enjoy Ghana. So one thing that comes into my mind when you mention Ghana is peace, and I'm sure Dr. Edem will agree with me on this one.
Dr. Mahu.
I agree with Isaac. Ghanaians are peace-loving people. To add to Isaac's description of what Ghana is a small country, but it's blessed with so many natural resources. We have a coastline that is about 560 kilometers long. That has a lot of marine resources. We have other natural resources on land. We have diamond, we have gold, we have timber, we have rich biodiversity. So it's a resource-rich country.
And you're well known for your cocoa. So
Right.
another important resource. All right, yeah. Miss Dawn, I know you live and work in Gambia, but you were born in Sierra Leone and you're currently in Nigeria. So can you please give us one word for all three countries so the audience can feel like they're a part of where you have been to be a part of?
Okay, so I'll start with Gambia. With Gambia, I think the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of Gambia will be small. And the fact that nobody really knows where the Gambia is. So most times you tell people I'm from Gambia, they tend to ask, oh, Zambia? You're like, no, not Zambia, Gambia. So the first thing that comes to my mind when I think of Gambia is that the country is small. And that, of course, the country also gets its name from the River Gambia, which is also the most prominent feature of the Gambia. Sierra Leone, I have not lived in Sierra Leone for a while, but with regards to Sierra Leone, I think I'll have to say it's the mountains. We have beautiful mountains in Sierra Leone, so I think that's the first thing that'll come to my mind when I think of Sierra Leone. And with Nigeria, it has to be the diversity of culture, food. They're so diverse with over 200 languages. So that has to be it for me.
Right. And if I had to describe all three countries, I would just say that is the heartbeat of the continent. All countries are just beautiful. The people are gorgeous. And we're definitely blessed to be a part of such an amazing, beautiful environment.
True.
Last icebreaker question. What inspired you to be a marine scientist? And I'll start this off with Dr. Mahu.
Okay, thank you very much, Maya. So growing up, I identified myself with the coast. I loved everything about the coast. And I also observed a lot of things. I realized that there were a lot of problems. And so I thought I could contribute to addressing some of the problems that I identified along the coast when I was growing up. And so that was what actually inspired my decision along the line to study marine science.
Thank you for that. Ms. Dawn, what was your inspiration behind becoming a marine scientist?
So, okay, I've always been a nature lover, but my becoming a marine scientist, I have to say, was by accident or by chance, because my initial motivation was to be a climate scientist. And I had already started a master's degree program in climate change at the University of Nairobi. But after completing my first semester, I stumbled upon a fully funded master's degree scholarship in climate change and marine science. I truly did not give it much of a thought because I assumed it was going to be more climate science than marine science. But to cut the long story short, I got the scholarship, but to my surprise, it was more marine science inclined than climate science. But then I was committed to seeing the program through. And I am here right now, I'm doing it, I'm loving it, and I'm excelling at it. So initially, it wasn't my first choice, but I think right now I'm grateful for where I am.
Thank you for that. And that really brings us to why we have this conversation about, some of the journey and the path that we have to take, and how we either land into the field or how we actually wanted to, and the struggles or the challenges. I won't say struggles because struggles is a negative connotation, but more of the challenges, that can be positive or negative. All right, let's move on to Mr. Isaac. What is your inspiration behind being a marine scientist?
All right, thank you very much. I've always loved nature, like Don said. I loved everything about conservation. So I had the opportunity to intern with the National Geographic and the Nature Conservancy in collaboration with Paragon 1 on marine conservation issues. So as I started to study about these marine sciences, I was so much interested. I wanted to learn more. I was eager to learn more. And one thing that was a turnaround for me was when I had the opportunity to speak to experts from the National Geographic Society and the Nature Conservancy. These experts are from marine background. And when I look at the work they had done and the effort and the passion they had for the field they were in, it inspired me a lot. For instance, I had the opportunity to speak to one, Felicity Burrows, who is a specialist in fisheries in Bahamas. And when I looked at the work she had done, I was so, excited about it. And she encouraged me to look at that field and to explore that field. And since then, it's been, exciting for me. It's been a great field to, explore. So that is what inspired me to also consider a career in marine science.
Thanks to her for giving you that inspiration. Mr. Forbi, what was your inspiration to into the field of marine science?
Yeah, I think I have a very similar story to Isaac and maybe to Don too. I think when I left high school, I was really confused at that point. I had a science background and had done biology, chemistry, and geology in high school. And I was looking forward to something. In fact, I had initially thought of doing mining geology in the university. Somehow I did get into a degree program in mining geology, but it didn't work out well. I didn't find purpose in it. And I began to see a lot of problems in my community that needed my focus, my attention, one of which was plastic pollution. And as I said earlier, we have a lot of water resources in Cameroon. And when you think about plastic pollution, you're looking at how it impacts water resources. It's practically an eyesore in Cameroon. And I think this is what drew me closer to think about marine science from how we as young people, or as a person, can get involved to solve this issue. So I took up a degree program, which was the closest in environmental sciences, because I didn't, of course, I didn't see any other opportunities. Environmental science was that broad, classical subject that I was involved in. So that's why I got into marine science, because I identified a problem and I said, okay, I need to learn and get the skills that would enable me be a community actor.
Thank you for that. And that actually brings us to the next stage of this panel discussion. Having those resources available to study marine science. As you mentioned, in Cameroon, they do not have a course in marine science, so you took a course that's close to marine science, which is environmental science. But in Ghana, this is a question for my Ghanaians. Are there courses available not just for Nkrumah Nkrumah University, but for the other universities? Is marine science available? And I'll let Dr. Mahu take this question.
Okay, so in Ghana, we have, I am at the University of Ghana, so I'll start speaking for the University of Ghana. Fortunately, the University of Ghana has a program in marine science. It used to be oceanography, so it starts at the BSc level. It used to be BSc Oceanography and Fisheries, and you can continue through to the PhD level. Now the name has changed. It's now marine science. So we have a separate BSc program in marine science. We have a BSc program in fishery science, and then we also have combined programs. And like you could also continue through to the PhD level with these programs, but these are very generic, unlike outside or when you travel abroad, that you have very specific marine biology, marine geology, that sort of thing. We have a very general BSc program, and also master's and PhD programs in marine science. So I have a degree, a PhD degree in oceanography, which is very broad, but it comes with a lot of advantages, because by the time you get to that stage, you would have been exposed to a lot of topics in marine science. And then it also gives you that advantage, or that that edge to be able to work along with the challenges, that some of the challenges that we face as scientists on the continent. If you graduate with a very specialized degree, sometimes it's very difficult to even do research. But with a very general degree, it is possible to veer into marine pollution. You can look at the fisheries, you can look at other things. And so that is the advantage that it gives us. You are exposed to a lot of things. The University of Cape Coast has a coastal management program. Now they have a center of excellence in ocean coastal resilience. And so they are able to also take students in marine science related programs as well. So these are the two main universities that currently run marine science programs in the country, in addition to KNUST, where they do the natural science program.
There's a saying that Ghana is, many miles advanced compared to small countries like the Gambia, which is still learning from our sister country, Ghana. So speaking of Gambia, Ms. Dawn Pratt, would you please explain to us about the different programs? Is there a marine science program on the BSc, either the BSc level or a PhD, up to a PhD level?
No, at the moment, we do not have a marine science program at UTG, the University of the Gambia. The closest you can get to it will be environmental science, a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science. That's the closest you can get.
So apart from preferred degree programs, a lot of West Africans talk about the lack thereof scholarship programs. If there's no degree programs, or if there is a degree program, there is sometimes a lack thereof scholarship programs in the field. So this question is to Mr. Isaac. Are there any financial constraints in pursuing your education?
Yes, there's always been, back here home in Ghana and West Africa, there's always been a financial constraint, because every time you have an idea to, pursue something in your field, but there's always going to be a problem in terms of funding. For instance, I'll use myself as an example. I graduated just last year, and I want to pursue my education, or further my education to the master's level. But I've received offers. I received an offer from Italy and Ireland, and even in KNUST, where I schooled. But the problem is funding. It's always been funding. So it's always a problem for us back here in Ghana. If you don't have the funding, that means you can't, further the education. And without, if you can't get the funding and you can't further the education, that means you can't, achieve your career goals and ambitions. So yeah, there's always been financial constraints.
So I guess if there's financial constraints in education, does that mean there's financial constraints in research? And I'll now let Dr. Mahu or Ms. Dawn take this this question.
Yes, there are a lot of financial constraints as far as research is concerned. In fact, for us researchers, that has been our major challenge because money is what drives everything. You can have the best ideas in the world, but if you don't have money, if you don't have the funds to implement that idea, the idea never materializes. When it comes to not just the education, but also for students to be able to do research, most of the students that enroll in marine science programs, especially at the graduates, the master's level through to the PhD level, have to fund their own studies. So they are paying for their tuition and they also have to pay for their own research. So you can imagine the quality of research that you'll be able to do if you have to fund your own research. We scientists, or we those who are researchers who have to supervise these students, also have challenges as far as research is concerned, as far as funding is concerned. Most of the times there are a lot of scientists who do not have the funds, and you need the funds to set up the labs. We don't have the labs, we don't have the equipment and all that. And so these financial constraints really become a barrier, a major hurdle as far as research is concerned. But that's not said, like I said, there are challenges, but we also need to find opportunities with these challenges. And so what I always say is that, yes, indeed, funding is limited, but as researchers on the continent, we can also do our bit. We can look for funding, we can build networks, we can work in different ways to sort of get some of the logistics that we need to be able to do the basic research that we ought to do. So that is just to say that, yes, funding is limited, but we can do something as researchers to keep our research going.
Thank you for that. Ms. Dawn, would you like to add to that?
Yes, just to add to what Dr. Mahu has said, there are real financial constraints, which is true. And also there are opportunities to study outside if you really look for it. So for example, I got the scholarship to study science and climate change through the German Ministry of Education and Research under the framework of WASCAL. And WASCAL gives yearly scholarship to 10 or 11 West African students to study different causes relating to climate change. So these are all opportunities out there that really look out. You may find them. Sometimes they're limited, but there are opportunities. And like Dr. Mahu said as well, we're scientists. We can apply for grants. We can also collaborate with our peers and other scientists to make things work. It's challenging, but it's still possible.
It's challenging, but we're still resilient, right?
Yeah.
And so one thing about us Africans, we know how to find things and make things happen. And just because one door closed doesn't mean the next door won't open. So although they're challenging, we know how to be resilient. All right, I'm going to dive into more of a professional side of things. I know we spoke most about education, but I want to hear more about your experiences in the professional field. I know many of you, for example, Mr. Forbi was just overseas at the COP27 meeting, but I have a question about the process of being able to visit professional or scientific conferences or be a part of professional circles and educational circles outside of West Africa, be it South Africa, East Africa, or overseas. Have you ever had any challenging experiences when you're trying to be in these circles? And if so, please let me know. I'll let anyone decide who can go first.
I think I want to intervene there. I think on the contrary, I've had a lot of opportunities from outside my country. Of course, with changes and specifically integrating the cultures and communicating the way that communicate is the first challenge you would encounter. I remember my very first webinars and meetings would always have me attend meeting like 12 a.m., 1 a.m. because most of the persons part of that meeting are basically from the US, Canada, and from the West. So you want to do it at a very convenient time because you're scheduling the meeting. So it's probably going to be a time that is best for them. So that's what happened. I think I've had there are times when I've had meetings at 3 a.m. because I'm part of this network or board member of this youth organization. So I think I've had that particular challenge where everyone is like, okay, it's EST. And I'm like, what is EST? What is ET? And all of that. So the time difference usually was an issue for me. And I think as time went on, I found solutions for those challenges. And basically, I was like, okay, if it's night time, I'm fine with it. I'm comfortable. So with time, I was able to overcome that challenge. I didn't really see it as a challenge anymore. It was an opportunity for me. Because basically, I can do my own stuff during the day in Cameroon, and it's nighttime. I could just at my house and attend webinars and be part of this meeting. So the language, the cultural differences. It's not really actually about English or French or Spanish. It's about how they communicate and also the timing. Timing was or is still an issue because it happens differently because you would not always appreciate late meetings. It's not always appreciated.
How about you, Mr. Isaac? Any challenges in the professional world and in circles?
I'm with Forbi on this one. When I was, doing my internship with the National Geographic, there were times when I had to do meetings around 12 a.m. and 1 a.m. Especially on my final presentation, we had a project, so we had to present on the final day of the internship. And on the final presentation, I had to wake up at 1 a.m. to do the presentation. And to me, I think if you are not passionate about what you are doing, there's no way you are going to be engaged or involved in some of these things because somebody is enjoying his or her bed and you are awake presenting about some project that you've done, all in the name of pushing and helping your field. So it's all about passion. It's all about it's all about loving what you are doing. So these are some of the challenges we face, but because we are passionate and resilient, we look for a way to make sure that these things happen for us.
Dr. Mahu?
Yes, so I'll come in with the visa application process. Just to cite a very recent example. So I was due to travel to South Africa to attend the African Academy of Sciences annual meeting and at the same time participate in the Connecting Minds Africa conference. I went to the embassy, I went to VFS to apply for a visa, only to be told that the South African embassy is not taking any other visa apart from medical visas. And so because of that, I cannot, travel. It is not just that, but there have been, cases where I've been to some of these embassies, these other embassies for the developed world to acquire visas, and I was turned down. It is not just me. I have spoken to a couple of people, and they have also shared, similar experiences. And it's kind of, frustrating. And sometimes you feel like it's unfair, especially when you think that you are going to participate in a meeting that would help you acquire certain skills. You think that you're going to participate in a meeting that will help you to project your continent, to talk about what you are doing, what challenges you are facing, and then you don't get the opportunity to go because of this visa bureaucracies. And so for me, that has been one of those challenges, especially when you start during the early career phase, when you start as a very young student, graduate student. It's very difficult. They refuse you visas, you can't travel. But when you build, and then you build your travel history, and then you become more established in the field, then it is more easier for them to give you the visas. But the young scientists, they need the visas to travel out, to go and see what is happening, because I personally feel like your ability to travel outside as a marine scientist at a very young stage, maybe say after your first degree, becomes like a catalyst, because you learn a lot, you see what others are doing, and you are able to develop certain skills, basic skills that you need for the rest of your career. And so that participation, or that ability to participate in meetings at that very early stage, is something that is very critical to the young scientists. And if something can be done, I think that the embassies should look into this issue. They shouldn't see it as, I was listening to somebody's story, and the person said she was refused because they said she's never been abroad before. There is always a first time. So if you don't give that person the chance to travel, to go and learn something, when will the person get the experience for you to say that you have a very good travel history? Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think that is such an important conversation to have, and a challenge that I think most people all over the continent, apart from, in South Africa, have issues with. And it's so important for representation at these conferences, so there can be some knowledge exchange, especially when you're dealing with the field of climate change and the oceans. We have to learn from one another, and we do need to have that dialogue. And so attending these meetings are very important at all professional levels of your career. Before I dive to you, Mr. Forbi, I'm sure Ms. Dawn would like to add something on it.
Well, unfortunately for me, I don't share the challenges that most have expressed, because I've not had the chance to travel for most of these conferences. But then with regards to meetings I've attended, I think I'll say I've been fortunate enough to be engaged in educational and professional circles that have good level of representation in all sense. And also, I've had colleagues talk to me about exclusion, and also being discriminated because of the color of their skin, or because of their gender or their sex and things like that. But personally, I have not experienced it, but we know these challenges, and we know that they do exist.
And having that dialogue with your colleagues will, prepare you just in case you might have those experiences, or even, to say to yourself, I'm very lucky that I have not been in those circles to have experienced that. So kudos to you. Mr. Forbi, you wanted to add something to what Dr. Mahu was saying?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for the opportunity. I think I connect very well to what Dr. Mahu was saying. I think there was this article published after UNOC, that's the UN Oceans Conference. And unfortunately, like most young activists who have tried attending conferences or meetings related to climate change or the ocean, because of lack of experience, you face discrimination and exclusion. Most young people from Africa, young scientists, would face exclusion because they are not trusted. They feel like, okay, it's an immigration intent. And I think we are always placed in a certain box, I would call it, a box of assumption. And I think it's something that most young people face, especially from this part of Africa. I connect very well with what Nigerians go through, with what Ghanaians go through. It's very similar for these three countries. I know why I'm saying so. And also, I've been part of a webinar where I had to basically present, and I had my presentation prepared, and I think I was the only Black person there. And at the end, I think they skipped me. Everyone forgot that I had to present, and it was really frustrating with all the preparation that was made. And I had to get into the realities of things and encourage myself that things will be better. So I think the challenges are enormous, and we face them in different ways.
Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Forbi. And moving, the next segment of this panel discussion is called Moving Forward. I mean, we've had these challenges, but we have to figure out a way to move forward, and the advice that we want to give others that might fall into our footsteps. So name at least one goal you would like to see as a marine scientist so that those challenges are not presented, or you don't have to go through those challenges. I know Dr. Mahu mentioned something about the embassies when it comes to visas, but name some other, from the challenges that you mentioned, what would you like to see happen so that you would not be presented with these types of challenges? I'll pass this on to Ms. Dawn, although you didn't have that many challenges.
Okay, marine science is, yes, the knowledge of marine science is not that broad in West Africa. So as an upcoming marine scientist, I think for me, my main goal will be to enlighten the upcoming generation, and also to just build capacity of the grassroots with regards to ocean and literacy and preservation of the marine and coastal ecosystems through research, education, and outreach.
Thank you for that. And Mr. Isaac, give me at least one goal you would like to accomplish to promote marine sciences in West Africa.
Personally, I'm working on starting an organization. I actually have the name, and it's called IBS Wild. And I want to bring on board people who are like-minded, who are passionate about conservation. And with this, would like to create awareness and educate people, especially people in communities, and then in secondary schools, speak to them, get those who are passionate about conservation, bring them on board so that they can in turn also educate people in the communities and then in the indigenous places about some of their activities and some of their, what they do that have negative impact on marine or the ocean. So this is what I've been planning, and I hope to progress steadily with it, and then hopefully we can make an impact in our communities and in Ghana as well.
Dr. Mahu, I know you've done amazing work so far in helping promote marine science, but I just want to hear if there are any other goals that you might have.
Yes, so for me, I think that first of all, we as a subcontinent need to come together. So my goal currently is to develop the marine science network in West Africa. And I've started doing something with the National Geographic Society. Likely we'll be convening a major marine science meeting next year where we will bring together everybody who is doing something on marine science. We are looking at involving funding organizations and people who are interested in developing capacity in marine science in West Africa to be part of this program. So our scientists, our activists can, meet and interact with these people. I also have a goal or a dream to sort of, set up a research infrastructure for carrying out research in marine science in West Africa. So you asked the question about whether we have marine science programs in various universities in the sub-region, and then we realized that some of the countries, for example, Gambia doesn't have a program in marine science. If we are able to set up a regional research infrastructure or a center that runs excellent programs in marine science, then we could, bring people from countries where they don't have marine science programs to come and, study marine science and use these facilities. That is a big one, but I am hoping that we can work at it and, get it done. Thank you.
Wow, those are very inspiring goals, and I'm sure you will work on it and you will get it done, and we'll support you from the beginning to the end on both of those. Mr. Forbi, what is your goal to accomplish or promote marine science in West Africa or in your country?
Okay. I think I work with a lot of young people. I do a lot of outreach and empowerment programs. And one of the projects I'm working on is to connect young people, young graduates, or even students who are still going to school in university with potential organizations, like, so they have a career path. Because I've seen a lot of young people who have studied marine related fields, but really do not see the opportunities there. But on my part, I've seen a lot of opportunities. I've seen a lot of potentials, a lot of platforms for these students to get engaged. And at the end, they have wasted degrees and they feel like, okay, it was a waste of time. They'll probably have done something else. So what I'm doing at university is basically, I have like this mentorship program with young graduates or students to connect them with internship opportunities, projects, so they could really get involved. Secondly, which is something I didn't really have this conversation with the university I graduated from, to have a program in marine science. Basically, I was with some lecturers at my university. They always call me the ocean guy. This wasn't really part of the course content, but somehow I found my space there, and I think it's brought up a conversation between the lecturers at the department, how they could encourage or bring up something that more students would benefit from, a program, a course that would encourage more students to get engaged in marine science, because it's probably a space that most people haven't exploited in Cameroon.
Wow, thank you so much for that. I'm so excited to see what you have in store. And again, we're here to support you in whatever you do. And that brings me to the next question. What advice would you give the next generation of Blacks in marine science studying or living in West Africa? And I'll hand this over to Mr. Isaac.
Well, the advice I would give to them is to keep the passion. They should keep their head high, and they should keep working hard to achieve whatever. We all have several goals. You could see the variations and the differences, but it all boils down to hard work, and then keeping your head high to do whatever that you have set yourself to do. So keep the passion, keep working hard, keep your head high, and then make sure that you achieve your dreams and your goals that you have set for yourself. So this is what I want to give to the next generation in the field of marine science.
All right, Ms. Dawn, what advice would you give the next generation of Blacks in marine science studying or living in West Africa? I believe you're on mute.
Sorry for that. I was saying that it's not going to be an easy journey. Studying in Africa itself is not easy, but it's going to be okay. And like Mr. Isaac said, they have to keep the passion. To study anything, you have to be passionate about it. Find that passion, stick to the passion, and also look out for opportunities. Collaborate with your peers, collaborate with professors. You don't know it all. Ask questions when you need help. Talk to people. It's going to get stressful, but then just talk. Express yourself when you need to, and then just do it. We all did it. We're here, so just do it. You'll be fine eventually. And also, be resilient. Be resilient.
Wow. Thank you for that. You made a very nice, big, important slogan, just do it. I think we've heard that many times in our life. Just do it and be resilient. And passing it on to you, Dr. Mahu, what advice would you give the next generation of Blacks in marine science that are studying or living in West Africa?
Yes, so in addition to Isaac and Don's intervention, I would add that we have to seize every opportunity as young scientists to develop our networks. Opportunities will never come to you when you are seated. I am very sure that my colleague panels here will attest to that, that really it takes a lot of hard work to be able to sail through this career as a young scientist in West Africa. And Ms. Pratt put it very right. She said, once you make up your mind that this is what you want to do, you should know that it is not going to be easy. Sometimes you will not even get the support of your parents because people think that this is a field that doesn't even promise employment. And I remember back in school, people will mock, people will ridicule us, will laugh at us that what are you going to do? What the hell are you going to do with such a course? And so we are here to let you know that it is not going to be easy, but with every challenge comes opportunity. We have a lot of talents as Africans, and there are so many things that you can do. You don't need anybody to even employ you as a marine scientist. You can set up your own organization, like what some of the panel members here are doing, and just be resilient. And I think you will be fine. Thank you.
Yes, I love it. You heard it from Dr. Mahu first. You don't have to be, just because you're African, you don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to be a lawyer. You can still find a job in marine science. All right, Mr. Forbi, what advice would you give to the next generation of Blacks in marine science that are living or studying in West Africa?
Yeah, I think I would use my experience as an encouragement to Blacks in marine science from West Africa. Basically, learn from those ahead of you, learn from the experience. And I think it's usually discouraging within our local context. You can quickly feel discouraged that, okay, this is not what we eat. But I think you can get true motivation from international collaboration. International collaboration brings a lot of motivation and inspiration that you would see more opportunities locally than internationally. When you speak with people from abroad and learn from your experience, you become a global citizen. And anywhere you are, you're potentially a problem solver. So I think we need this, the characteristics of a problem solver in every marine science, that they'll basically be seeing opportunities and find purpose in what you're studying. And that would definitely be a way out from every situation of frustration in what you're studying.
Thank you so much, Mr. Forbi. We only have 7 minutes left for this panel discussion, but it's so important, the last question that I'm going to ask. So if you can quickly just give us a quick 30-second for this question, 30 seconds answer. Any recommendations for the BIMS community and others for inclusion of marine science for West Africans? And I'll toss this over first to Ms. Pratt.
Well, I only got to know about BIMS when I was approached to be a panelist during this BIMS week. And I must say it's a privilege to be given this platform. Being a Black marine scientist in West Africa is somewhat challenging due to the lack of technological advancement for data acquisition and technical know-how in tackling marine-related issues. If these and many other problems can be solved, this can possibly attract and interest the young ones to get involved into marine science-related fields, thus increasing the marine scientists in this region. So I believe that if BIMS community will extend their involvement and collaboration to West Africa in all areas, including giving financial assistance for conferences, summer school, and maybe scholarships for aspiring scientists, this will truly have a positive impact for West Africa.
Thank you, Ms. Dawn Pratt. And Mr. Isaac, 30 seconds.
I think Don has said a whole lot, but I just want to add that if BIMS can also, initiate something like an internship, because it was through internship that I got to know about, more about marine sciences. So if they can just initiate an internship, that will allow people from Africa to, participate and then learn more about marine sciences. During my internship, it was a rigorous process in studying of marine conservation issues. So with this, if they're able to initiate this internship and people are able to go through this rigorous process and learn more about marine sciences, then they can, consider a career in that field. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Forbi. Any recommendations for the BIMS network? I think he's going through one of those things that we always go through in Africa. So I'll pass that this question to Dr. Mahu until we get Mr. Forbi back.
Okay, so I think that the BIM network is an important one to us marine scientists. Just like Dawn said, I have heard something about the network, but I don't think that there's been a lot of publicity as far as this network is concerned in Africa. And so first of all, I think that we should try and include a lot of the Africans or all the Africans who are, in marine science. We should try and, get them to sign on to the BIMS network. It will be really nice to have a database of the BIM network. We want to know who is doing, so that if there is an opportunity to collaborate, we could just dip into that database and reach out to our colleagues who are, also doing the same thing but in the developed world, to sort of collaborate with them. Finally, there could be exchange opportunities, so research exchanges. So BIMS who are in countries, developed countries who have the privileges of having very good labs to work in. This would be really nice to, help develop the capacity of BIMS who are in underdeveloped countries. So basically, these are the three things that I want to ask the BIMS community to look at doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mahu. And visit the BIMS website at blackandmarinescience.org so you can tap into that network and those resources. Passing it on to you, Mr. Forbi, if you can just give me 1 minute of what your recommendations are.
Yeah, this question is really of interest to me. I think all the panelists had something to say. As a community manager and being in charge of extending or expanding communities of different networks in Africa, I would say that there's a lot of value in professional communities, knowledge exchange, professional advice. All of these would help Blacks in marine science in West Africa, in Africa as a whole, to gain from a rich resource that colleagues will be able to provide. So I think it's very important that the BIMS network in Africa grows, that there's more inclusion, there's more integration of different young people, because most young people are looking forward to a community to feel a sense of belonging to, and it really motivates them. Not to say much, a community is really important.
Right, very true indeed. Thank you for that. And thank you to our panelists. I appreciate your input and being a part of this very important conversation that must be done. Thank you to the BIMS network for including West Africa in BIMS Week 2022. And thank you to the audience for joining us. If you have any questions about our panel and our panelists, please follow our panel members on their socials or the contact details that they have given to you. Thanks again to